Having taken the remarks of the President of Court of Appeal, I think the next is remarks from UNDP President Representative. You are welcome.
Thank you, Justice Simon, for the very warm welcome. Your Lordship, Reec Chan Madut, the Honorable Chief Justice, the Deputy Chief Justice, Honorable Ministers here present, particularly the Minister of Interior, who is representing Her Excellency the Vice President, the Minister of Justice, Minister of Interior, the Honorable Minister of Gender, Children and Social Welfare, all other ministers here present, in case I missed anybody, Your Lordships, judges of the Supreme Court, Court of Appeal and all other courts of the Kingdom of South Sudan, Your Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, particularly the Deputy Ambassador of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, Michel Dillon, and the Head of Cooperation of the European Union, representatives of Norway, Canada, and if I missed anybody, it's good to have you here. Colleagues from the UN, I noticed that there are a number of us here. All protocols observed, senior government officials, our friends for the media. It's a great pleasure and privilege to join this morning's launch of the Gender-Based Violence and Juvenile Court in Juba. This launch is symbolic, a symbolic and important milestone as we unite with the rest of the world to mark the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. The launch of this court brings together key partners in the justice sector with the international community, civil society, and the good people of South Sudan to once again reflect on how we can advance justice for survivors of sexual and gender-based violence. We are all told that with the COVID-19 pandemic, there's been increases all over the world in gender-based violence. And it is well known that access to justice for gender-based violence survivors is one of the factors that also is recognized as an important indicator as we look at the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the UN Security Council Resolution 1325. And as we are all aware, the year 2020 also marked our key milestones in issues around gender. We commemorate 25 years of Beijing. We also have commemorated this year the UN Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace, and security. And then we also counting down to 2030, where issues of gender stands on its own as an important sustainable development goal 5. Investing in people affected by gender-based violence and conflict-related sexual violence can only bring peace and development dividends. When people feel they have been heard, their issues have been addressed, then they feel comfortable and realize that they are part of the larger society and they are being looked after. So facilities such as this provides a window of opportunity to tackle equality, as well as systemic and intersecting forms of discrimination and inequality. And it's important to stress that when we talk about gender-based violence, yes, a large majority are women, but we also look at men and young adults who also suffer violence from members of the opposite sex. When survivors of violence have services and the support they need to recover from harm, they are more likely to exercise their rights advance their livelihoods, and contribute to the communities and society at large. Like the rest of the world, gender-based violence is common in South Sudan, and I believe that we have heard that from previous speakers, and this is something that we all agree and commit to helping to address. The effects of gender-based violence, whether in the form of physical injury, mental and psychological impacts, reproductive health programs, lack of educational opportunities and productivity, and sometimes ultimately death, have long-term effects not just on the person who has been abused, but also on families. And in communities, these have been causes of conflict. And so as we look at how we work together to support South Sudan on its road to healing, reconciliation, peace, and development, we couldn't do that without having a specific focus on gender-based violence, because it is part of the issues that we have to deal with. Reports have shown that women and girls are affected more by gender-based violence than men and boys, yet they are not always protected by the law and continue to be deprived of the means to escape poverty or live in dignity. Sometimes they are even blamed for being the cause of the issue further down. Because if I'm going to go to the police station and I'll be told to explain how I found myself to be in the same space as the person who abused me, when I'm made to feel that because I'm a woman or a girl, the fault has to be mine and not the perpetrator, what courage do we give the abused person to approach any law enforcement, whether it is police at the first instance, to even able to graduate to a law court? So what we are saying is that justice services, whilst we recognize that justice services are not enough, usually the abusers, if they happen to be less educated, poor and living in rural areas, they are even more affected because they don't have any voice. And you won't get anybody to go to the police station and court with you. So the lack of means for GBV survivors to claim their rights reinforces only their exclusion, discrimination, and continues to expose women and girls, especially to heightened rates of violence. For us in UNDP, addressing issues of gender-based violence and of justice for the juveniles is a key priority. And it's in the light of this that we humbly appeal and are very grateful to His Excellency the President of South Sudan for having donated the space, and to the leadership of your Lordship, the Chief Justice, and to the entire Judiciary for the great cooperation we have had in rolling out this important initiative on gender-based violence cause. Sir, we continue to applaud your visionary leadership and look forward to our continued fruitful collaboration such that we will not only have this beautiful edifice, but we will continue to do the good work beyond Juba. We are told this court is the first of its kind in the country and the sub-region, so there's a lot to applaud South Sudan for. And can we give the country a clap? You know, there's always a lot of negativity, but to have the boldness to say we established a gender-based violence and juvenile court, it's so monumental, and we really appreciate that. And we believe that this will be a model, including the mobile courts, which other countries will come and learn from South Sudan. So as we adjudicate cases, let us also document the lessons learned so that we can share across the world. It's not just this sub-region. Gender-based violence is a global phenomenon, and if you're doing something good in South Sudan, it's important to share for all to know that yes, we got it right and we are deepening our efforts in that area. I'm pleased to learn that about almost 670 cases involving sexual violence have so far been registered, with 13 cases of rape against male defenders, which have resulted in 12 convictions by this court. And this clearly demonstrates that people will not get away with taking the law in their own rights and abuse other people's rights. As we've always said, women's rights are human rights. And so ensuring that people get quick and timely redress, we are only doing what is right. We also believe that by providing dedicated and quick access for gender-based rights, the court is a step towards ensuring that all GBV survivors use the law to defend their rights and secure justice. And this is a strong signal that South Sudan can hold people and perpetrators accountable. When there is no room for legal redress, people take the law in their own hands. There are stories, and it doesn't have to be in South Sudan, where male members of a family, it actually goes right down to the Bible, where a male member of a family feels my sister has been abused, I haven't had redress, I also go and attack that person, and then there are all these reprisal attacks, which ends up in communal conflict. So doing this is part of our own way of mitigating and preventing communal violence. Allow me to end by adding a few points on the service, on what the GBV court has enabled us to achieve so far, and to encourage people to continue to report violence. We have supported the police to establish 23 special protection units, which are helping GBV survivors to report cases within communities. We also support the Specialized Women and Children's Unit in the Directorate of Public Prosecutions to ensure speedy prosecution of GBV cases. We also are supporting the provision of psychosocial support for survivors. And we believe that this is something that we need to prioritize, and we want to applaud the Netherlands for walking this journey with us. Because we kind of think that the person has gone to the police, somebody has been killed, and so the survivor is okay. But the emotional turmoil, the psychological, the nightmares that the person lives with, we do not address enough. So one of the things we are going to be working on in the coming year as UNDP is to complement psychosocial support to this court, such that in addition to hearing cases, we'll also provide a bit of emotional support that survivors need. Having legal frameworks help. And in this regard, we look forward to the enactment of the anti-GBV bill, which will address some of the issues around discrimination and ensure the legal protection of GBV survivors. Like the rest of the world, we believe that as we mark this important 16-day of activism, there couldn't have been a better testimony of our commitment to fight gender-based violence. And so, Honorable Minister of Gender, Honorable Minister of Justice, Honorable Minister of Interior, all of us are committing through this inauguration to say we are going to make sure that every person who suffers from gender-based violence can have the boldness to walk to a police station, because they know the police would also enable them access to this court, and that their cases will be heard. The mobile courts that we have supported over the past few months have been testimony that we want to bring access to the doorstep of every South Sudanese. The results of the pilot show that it is working. So this is something we are going to be rolling out and then expand, and we believe that through that, we would have emboldened all people who feel their rights have been infringed, particularly gender-based violence, to seek redress. And we want to thank your Lordship and the various judges who have gone to difficult parts of South Sudan with us, such that people can be held ahead and feel that yes, they are being supported. I thank you for your kind attention, and on behalf of UNDP, to commit to continue this important work, and to also showcasing that South Sudan is a leader when it comes to fighting gender-based violence. Thank you so very much.